Hello and welcome to the Broad Street Hockey Podcast, live here on a Tuesday afternoon. I'm your host, Ryan Gilbert. Joining me, as usual, is my co-host, Joe DeMarini. And today we have a special guest to help discuss the draft. We got Jacob Russell from Broad Street Hockey. How are we doing today, guys?
Dope.
I'm doing perfectly adequate.
Perfectly adequate. I mean, hopefully, that's
totally
fine. Yeah, as long as you're not doing
hopefully
bad.
We get better throughout the day. I went for a run today, and my legs are gonna fall apart.
Oh,
it's my own doing. It's my own.
I mean, if you're doing adequate after going for a long run, you're doing great then.
Yeah, if we're grading on a curve, I think I'm doing fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely there. So, Joe, I mean, we should call you Joe Guard DeMarini because you got a big guard in there with the cucumbers.
Ooh. Yeah, no, I was out there today. I only needed 2 cucumbers, but as I was like messing around with the plant, I found a third one that was larger than the 2 I'd already cut off, and I was like, "Oh crap, I gotta snip this one." And then I found a 4th one that I'm like, I can't just harvest this. I gotta leave it there for another day or 2. So it's because they start deteriorating as soon as you cut them off, and I'm like, I'll just be up to my ears in cucumbers.
Not just firing back 4 cucumbers and within 3 days.
Isn't there like a TikTok guy who's like a billion ways to eat a cucumber, and he like makes these cucumber salads and stuff? I don't know. I'm not on TikTok.
Are you gonna?
This is old man pod.
Are you gonna pickle that, Joe? You gonna make some pickles?
Ooh. I've never tried pickling. I'm a little intimidated because you have to sterilize the jars, and like that's a whole thing. And I don't know if I want to do that. Quick pickles, sure. Maybe I'll try that for like lunch tomorrow.
We got some baby praying mantises back in our catnip plant on our deck there. We had one there that was last year. We saw it grow big, and now there was one before. Now it's just we saw like 4 or 5 yesterday. So hopefully they're doing well there.
Cool, that's awesome.
Enough old man talk here to begin
cultivating ecosystems.
You growing anything, Jacob, up there in Canada?
No, we just got some herbs, and parsley.
How did you say that the first time?
I said it wrong.
Okay.
My fault.
Yeah.
I had my best friend's name. Dad's name was Herb growing up. So
there you go.
That was my gym teacher's name, Herb.
Freudian slip.
Yeah. All right. Make sure here, top of the podcast, you are subscribed to the Broad Street Hockey feed on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, all that good stuff. Got plenty of great draft content, off-season content coming up here. So make sure you subscribe and get along there.
And speaking of the draft.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of the draft, we got the draft party at Chickies and Pete's in South Philly, right there by the stadium complex. That's going to be on Friday. Tickets are $5. All go to Snyder Hockey. So just want a head count. $5 donation, right, get in there. Not sure if we have anything north of the border up there in Toronto for Jacob and Thomas and whoever else. Maybe we can get Jason McNeil to come down from whatever.
From out east or out west or some coast he's on. I don't know. Yeah. If you come to my house, I'll give you a beer, but I don't think I have anything else to offer necessarily on the day. Yeah. When flights become cheaper, maybe I'll find my way down there one day, but I feel that day will never come. So I may just have to take the bullet. Maybe it's next year. But always a good time down there. Always fun interacting with everybody who surrounds the website, and we'll just talk Flyers and get upset when they pick somebody at 6 that they shouldn't.
Yeah, last year we were a little bit upset with the trade down to Luchenko there, but the year before it was an absolute blast with Michkov falling to the Flyers at 7. So hopefully we have more of that here.
A trade down is never good for a draft party. It just is like naturally anticlimactic.
Well, what was even worse was either the year before that or 2 years before that, it was the Risto trade. So the Flyers had no first round pick. We were just hanging out at Bullies. We're like,
thinking about how we could have been doing something, but instead we have Rasmus Ristolainen. So now we can't do anything.
Thanks, Chuck Fletcher. Thanks, appreciate it a lot there.
The gift that keeps on giving.
Yes. But now we are post the scouting combine. We got some players there. We got some grip strengths. We got some bike testing. We got some pull-ups there. So we have new mock drafts to go over and critique. We do have a few Flyers rumors before there to get started. Maxim Shabanov is apparently not going to choose an NHL team until after the draft and free agency, according to RG Media, which has been, pretty reliable, I think, for Russian news since it's really coming to the mainstream there. Yeah, he's small, but it looks like he's someone that can potentially score and help Michkov, maybe help bring in Kaprizov in a few years.
Yeah, I mean Shabanov he's really the prototypical like KHL free agent lottery ticket. He can. There's definitely a chance that he can be a middle six, like 50-point scorer in the NHL, who's like a spark plug and really fun to watch. He's a very interesting player. He has some very interesting highlight reels, right? So it's intriguing, and obviously it doesn't cost you anything. So if he is to come over, I mean, you can cut bait pretty easily if it doesn't go well. So there's really no downside besides I'm sure that it'll cause a stir that they're looking at another 5'8" forward, a whole 5'8", making Bobby Brink look like a towering man.
Yes.
I'm sure that'll get some rise out of the fan base if it does happen, but there's really no there's no downside to it necessarily.
It's just money. You're not giving up draft picks. You're not giving up anything of value. It's just a contract, which, people complain about being owned by Comcast, but one of the great things about it is that they just spend money and don't care. They just don't care. So it'd be fun. They'd have a very small bottom middle six, though. Brink, Shabanov, Pelletier, all tiny guys.
Yeah, it's not exactly a huge, and it's not like it's not like they're surrounded by huge players either. Like Noah Cates is not exactly a hulk of a man out there. So
maybe they'll just trade for Tage Thompson, like I've been asking them to do. Get the big draft down the center there. But yeah, looking at the KHL top scorers here, Shabanov was third, 67 points in 65 games. Second was Nikita Gusev, who had some time with the Devils, and someone else. He had 69 points in 68 games. And then the top scorer, Joshua Levo, who had a nice journeyman career in the NHL. Had 80
Josh Levo could have done it.
So,
what's Jordan Wheel up to these days?
The real deal. Last time, so I was doing Dynamo Moscow game. I believe it was Dynamo Moscow, and wherever he is now. And it was the line was Jordan Wheel, Gusev, I believe, and Cedric Paquette. And I was like, "This is awesome! It's just some guys out here, man." They had Eric Odell. Remember Eric Odell of Winnipeg Jets fame?
I don't. I'm not. Apparently, I'm not as much of a sicko as you are. I thought I was a pretty.
No, he's a terrible hockey player. Really AHL guy. I mean, I have no offense to Eric, but he was not necessarily. It's one of those guys you're like, why? Like the KHL, the Russian guy's just signing anybody who played in North America because, like, what's Eric Odell?
Yeah,
they don't have a Russian guy who's better than Eric Odell.
Come on. Couldn't even make the 3-ice league. That's a shame. That's crazy.
3-ice league should be a bigger thing. I think
it was fun. I had a good time.
Yeah, it's just hard to market there. Jordan Wheel, it was 22nd in the league in scoring for Dynamo Moscow. He had 51 points in 66 games. So that shows you, the type of competition they're going against in the KHL. Occasionally, guys can come over and hit, like Demidov. Obviously he looked good. We've seen Panarin come over. We've seen a ton of guys, but Shabanov. Yeah, I'd rather have him there in the bottom six or in and out of the lineup rather than Tony Dick or Oleg Excel or whoever they had, last year.
Right.
Yeah. He would be more exciting at the very least.
Yes. Before we dig too much into the draft talk, Jacob, you have any thoughts on? I know you have thoughts on this guy, Nick Hague. Apparently came out today more so that they're kind of using this as leverage to get a better contract with Vegas. But the more I look at it, I don't want him, and I'm pretty sure you don't want him either.
I don't really like this is the thing I have like with the Talkit thing as well. And even like bringing in his assistants. I can't have like a really hardcore opinion on this stuff. Like Nick Hague, yeah, he'd be fine. He'd be cool. Sure. Yeah. What do you give up for Nick Hague? Like a third, like a second round pick at most, at the very most, probably overpaying.
Yeah.
And then you sign him to what, $2.5 million for 4 years at maximum.
Yeah.
Like what? And okay, sure. I liked Nick Hague coming out of the draft. I've seen Nick Hague play. I think he's pretty solid. For if you're trying to build a bottom pair that's big for the future, I mean that he's not the worst candidate. And you know, if you're playing for Vegas, you're not a complete bum if you at least get ice time, right? He's playing for an organization that knows what they're doing. But yeah, I think it's more just his agent and the whatever system surrounds him, just kind of trying to use teams as leverage. Maybe the Flyers did have some interest in Nick Hague at some point. I'm sure they would have. Sure, why not? It's just like it, but it could also be just in passing in a conversation with the Vegas GM, just like, oh yeah, what would you look at for Hague? Or like if they're talking about a bigger deal, would you include Hague? That doesn't constitute necessarily a concrete interest. So I just don't see to what end. I don't know. What end would you get this guy? He's 25, right? Like he's not young. He's not young, but he's also he's got if you still had the Bradshaw hangover and you thought that you could take a defenseman and make them into something more. Yeah, sure. Maybe he would be a decent depth acquisition. I don't think he's a bad hockey player, but no. It's just not anything I can, it's just a guy, if you sign in free agency, you're like, oh yeah, I got Nick Hague. I wonder what he's going to do that next year.
But the Flyers have such a logjam on defense already. I'm like, but yeah, they've got these prospects in Lehigh Valley that need ice time. Why would you get Nick Hague? Like Risto is going to miss a couple weeks at the beginning of the season, sure, but he's going to come back. Yeah. So, like what is the point? So I don't know. It just, if you were trading out a defenseman, I guess, but trading out any of the defensemen for Nick Hague would be a loss to the Flyers. Like maybe Igor Zamula is the only one where 1-for-1 would make sense, but I would say Hague might be a better player than Igor Zamula.
Yeah, like they're pretty similar, right? It's not a huge gap in talent. I mean, Hague probably is better. I think you're right, but again, it's just a guy. It's a guy that you can sign. It's a depth guy. It'd be okay. I think it does continue to say something about. I'm not exactly sure that the future of Emile Andre is necessarily as secure as some people in the fan base want to believe. I think that with Jamie Drysdale really looking to fill that role, unless he totally, just proves that he cannot step in and take it, I think Andre's going to have a tough time getting back into that top six and not just being a fringe piece, 7-8, who comes in alongside, let's say, a Hunter McDonald when the team has injuries, right? I think he's closer to that classification within the organization than he is like somebody who they want to maybe promote up to the top 4 at some point. But yeah, I think we'll have to see if they want to build a bigger bottom 4 defenseman, or they want to supplement Drysdale with more big guys around him. Not exactly that, York and Sanheim don't necessarily play small or big. They're more neutral. Sanheim is a big guy, but doesn't necessarily play that way. And you don't know, as we said, where you're going to get from Ristolainen. So it makes some sense, but at the end of the day, it's not anything I would have any hot take on that's going to light the world on fire on the Nick Hague signing or potential move.
Yeah, I thought about writing like an article like, oh, I don't want Nick Hague on my team, but like I wouldn't hate having him.
No, yeah, that seems a little too that's a little too much. Like I don't not want you on my team, Nick. It's not a personal thing.
No. I would maybe give up a second. I could maybe squint and see giving up a second for him, if Keith Jones really likes him. Not having Bradshaw definitely hurts that. But, he gets ice time in Vegas. But looking at his, most common partners over the past 2 years, it's always the third pair. Like he's never up there with Theodore, never with Pietrangelo, never with even like Martinez or Hanifin. It's just he's with White Cloud or whoever else is. I guess last year he got some time with those bigger boys, but mostly White Cloud. Sometime with Pietrangelo, but that was their only that was their worst expected goals 4% pair there. Just maybe change of scenery can help. And looking at the blue line, like there's a log jam, I think, more in the AHL than at the NHL. Because like right now you have Sanheim, Sealer, Drysdale, Zamula, York. And then you have Risto, who probably isn't going to be healthy to start the season. So then you have 5 guys there. Andre is not going to fill the role of Risto. So bringing in Haig, if they don't think Hunter McDonald is ready, might be a move. But yeah, I'm not giving up anything for him. I'd rather get someone in free agency, or if Hunter McDonald impresses enough, sure, let's see what he got. But yeah, if Nick Haig doesn't cost much, if it's like a third, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's a fine move to make if you like the player, but I think you can find someone of the equivalent value in free agency.
And we're already in the system.
Much less of a headache.
There's Spencer Gill, who
he's pretty far away.
He's far away, sure, but he put on like 40 pounds since the draft last year. He's not going to be a small guy. Mm-hmm. If they're as high on Hunter McDonald as they want us to think, so you go out, you trade Haig, you sign him for the remainder of his RFA years, and then he walks in UFA, or you trade him. I just don't see the logic behind it.
I'm still not necessarily sure why they see Hunter McDonald as being that good. I don't think Hunter McDonald will ever be as good at hockey as Nicholas Haig is. I don't think that matters necessarily to the point that we're making, but I still just don't see what Hunter McDonald brings other than being a big guy who bangs around a little bit. I mean, again, is that Brandon Manning? Do we need another Brandon Manning? I do not want another Brandon Manning. I'd take another Andrew McDonald before I took another Brandon Manning, which may be controversial, but
McDonald was a fine defenseman. He's just not worth the money. He's a fine third pair guy. Brandon Manning was
like Robert Haig. It's Robert Haig sort of syndrome.
Yeah, I was
right?
Say, if the
is Hunter McDonald Robert Haig?
If the Flyers get Nick Haig, hopefully he wears number 8, and everyone can break out their Robert Haig jerseys. And just
they're spelled differently, though.
They're spelled differently. Just get some duct tape. It's fine.
There's gonna be a lot. There's gonna be creative with the duct tape, with the positioning.
Of the letters, you have the HAG, then you replace the G with UE.
It's
fine. Yeah.
I mean, shit. I saw people on Jamie Drysdale's first game in Provorov jerseys with duct tape over the Provorov and Drysdale written in Sharpie on that. So
yeah, I've seen some number 7.
I took the duct tape off after. Actually, maybe.
I saw some number 79 fart jerseys last year at the Farg. Those were pretty good. Probably the only potential way you should be wearing that jersey, especially. Anything else here on the rumors? Haig, Rossi, anything?
Nah, let's draft. Let's do draft.
Get Marco Rossi. I don't
get Marco Rossi.
Just get him. I don't know.
Just get him.
Nobody wants him apparently. You got 3 first-round picks. Just get the guy. I don't know. Can't be that hard.
All right. For myself, for the ad break, the podcast is going to an ad now. But for YouTube here, let's just continue into the draft talk. We have the 6th overall pick. We've seen plenty of mock drafts, giving the Flyers Desnoyers, giving them Frundell, giving them Martin, giving them Hagens. What are you guys thinking now? Jacob, you can go first. You're the guest here.
Well, see, okay, this is where things have gotten really interesting for me. Probably about a month and a half ago, I felt like I had a pretty good consensus on the top 5 players in the draft. At the top, Schaefer is going 1. Misa is going 2. It's probably a 95% that Misa is going 2 at this point. 3, I more so put Porter Martone there because I thought that the fit with the Blackhawks put him alongside Bedard as a big playmaker. I think it's just really harmonious fit there for the team. And then I saw Utah or Nashville. Utah could maybe look somewhere else, look towards a Desnoyers or a Frundell due to the fact that Hagens is kind of just a repetition of Clayton Keller and Logan Cooley. They already have 2 guys of similar archetype. So for Utah, I felt it was more Frundell, but Hagens if they just didn't care about the size. And then if Hagens would have fallen past there, Hagens or Frundell, whichever one did, the Predators would take them, and that would leave the Flyers with some combination of Caleb Desnoyers, of Brady Martin, maybe Jackson Smith if you wanted to take a defenseman and really make everyone upset as the pick. If Roger McQueen's injury history hadn't been clarified, which kind of came a little bit after that. So at that point, I thought I was very certain as to where the draft was going to shake out. But as we get closer and closer, these bigger guys up the middle seem to be I think it's actually a phenomenon that I might want to start writing about, around playoff time, as people are watching the Stanley Cup playoffs and how they unfold. These bigger guys up the middle just seem to be growing in value. Your Frondells of the world, he looks like he's at least a strong consideration for the Blackhawks at 3, if not the pick. And your Caleb Denoyer of the world, who had a good Mem Cup with London, with Moncton. They lost to London. He had a good Mem Cup with Moncton and has risen up some boards just as being a big guy who's kind of good at everything and not great at anything. And he started to jump up boards to around the 4-5 spot that I didn't necessarily think he was going to get to. I always thought he was going to be closer to like the 7, 8, 9s. That leaves the possibility that I didn't think was going to be really possible, and that's James Higgins falling to the Flyers at number 6. Higgins was at one point the number 1 prospect in this draft, and by a pretty wide margin. He has lost that distinction after a year at Boston College, which he had a point per game, but he was overshadowed by Gabe Perreault and Ryan Leonard to a pretty heavy degree. And a lot of scouts have soured on him, especially being a bit smaller up the middle as a center. And it seems like teams are going to pass on him. Now, I don't know if it's enough to get him from where I thought he was going to go, which was 3-4 down to 6, because to me, it just seems like Nashville should take him. Like if he gets to Nashville, it should be a really easy pick for them to just take the most skilled player, given that Nashville has never really had a guy that was a super talented center. You know, they're working with Ryan O'Reilly as their 1C right now. That's a much different archetype than Higgins. And that, just to wrap things up here as I go on my longest tangent of the episode, hopefully, that to me screams Higgins there. But with Barry Trotz, as I was talking to Ryan prior to the show beginning, with Barry Trotz as the GM, or just the Predators' philosophy in general, the last 2 years they've taken Yegor Surin out of the KHL, and they've also taken Matthew Wood. Matthew Wood's 6'4", Surin's 6'2", and really mean, really heavy, plays a big game. I can really see them valuing Martone over Higgins for that simple reason, that they really want to make a big power forward and try to build one out from their own system. They're trying to do it right now with Svechkov, who was also one of their later first or second round picks from a few years back. But yeah, that's what I think's going to happen. There's a lot of moving parts here. There's no consensus. Any consensus you see in the mocks right now is purely speculative, because I don't see anywhere, like, the difference between Frondel and Denoyer is like team to team preference on where they played and how they played, and like where these teams saw them. If they saw Frondel at the U18s where he wasn't great, or if they saw him playing in the Alaveskin where he was a bit better, or the J20 National. I don't know, man. There's a lot of shit going on.
Yeah. There's also the fact that Nashville has 3 draft picks as well, right? They have theirs and 2 other firsts this year.
Yes, I believe they have at least one other one.
23 and 26 as well.
Yeah, 23 and 26.
There you go. So they could go with Higgins early and then get bigger guys later on.
They could also do the reverse.
They could also do the reverse. They get the bigger guy up front
and then take
Cullen Potter or something, you know?
Yes, so that's the same sort of thing I've been turning over in my head.
I mean, for me, go ahead, Gilbs.
Do you think if Higgins is there at 5, and the Predators right now want to turn this around, they're not rebuilding, do you think Higgins could be NHL ready to play second, third line minutes with the Predators? Like, that's what I'm thinking. Maybe they take the swing at Higgins or even McQueen. Like, they could reach for McQueen, hope he has like one more year, or does he have? He's
going to be the big wild card. He's going to be the big wild card. I think McQueen's probably still more 6 to 10. Like, I think his range starts maybe with the Flyers or just after the Flyers. I think a team would sooner take a Denoyer over swinging on a McQueen. And that's, again, whether or not Higgins goes earlier than that, because I'm not exactly sure if the Predators are looking that way. Yeah. Like, it's tough. It's really tough because you can see both sides. It's really coming down to like how the scouts are thinking and like what they're valuing.
I mean, for Utah too, they jumped up from 14 to 4. they might have not been scouting in the top 5 because they just didn't think they were going to have that option. So, maybe they fell in love with Brady Martin because they thought he would be available in the teens where they would have been drafting. I know you said McQueen would be like a post 6 one, but I don't know if there's, I don't think, what's his name? It's Daniel Butt in the Utah system. Yeah. He's a big guy, right? But I don't think he plays center.
I don't think he did. I thought he was a winger.
Winger, right? Yeah. Maybe they swing on McQueen. They're like, yo, we've got all the players we really need, but we don't have an enormous center. We take that swing on McQueen. But I'm with you. It could go anyway. Some people are projecting that it's Martone that drops because he's the less preferable position. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And from a Flyers perspective, if it's Martone versus Desnoyers or Frondel, I'm taking Martone, which I wouldn't have said a month or so ago, but I've really come around on the idea of him at 6. But if it's Martone versus Higgins, well, now we've got a really difficult conversation to have.
I think it has more probability to be Martone versus Higgins than Frondel versus
or Desnoyers or
than Frondel being the mix. I think Frondel would be gone. Desnoyers is so tough for me. I could see somebody just jumping. I could see the Predators doing it. Definitely.
He fits their mold.
He does. And he would play right behind Ryan O'Reilly in theory. At least for like a year if they can get him up in time. Yeah. It would kind of make sense. And it feels like a Barry Trotz pick. It feels like you kind of know how he liked to coach. You kind of know like the kind of hockey mind he is. So it does feel like with him at the helm, it feels like to me that Higgins may not be the selection. And again, as Gilb said, if you want a guy who's going to turn it around right away, you could maybe put Porter Martone in the NHL after his college year next year. Like if you let him go to college and bring him in at the end of the season after the college season ends, if you're hopefully, as the Predators hope to, are going on a playoff push, that could be feasible. Probably more so than Higgins and Desnoyers especially.
Like Martone is probably the closest player in this draft who is like ready for the NHL.
Yeah, he could play.
Schaefer missed all season. There's no way he's NHL ready. He's a string bean. Like he's going back to the CHL, no question. Misa maybe because he tore it up in the O and like.
I would put Misa in the NHL. I just think it would be more difficult for him to adjust as a center right off the bat than it would be Martone as like a third line winger. I think he could be like Quentin Byfield, like if a certain a type of mold. Obviously, Byfield was the center, but like the big guy who isn't necessarily physical yet because he hasn't learned how to be, but he's got the puck skills, and his skating's a bit weak, but he's got the puck skills that he can at least be a contributor if you wanted him to. So it's tough.
But like Higgins, there's no shot. There's no world I see Higgins making the NHL next year. Who else? Frondel. I doubt it. I seriously doubt it. Of the top prospects, the one I'm the lowest on is Frondel. So I am hoping he is off the board by the time the Flyers make a selection.
I think he will be.
Yeah. Because it's Chicago that seems to love him. But
yes.
Hey, I mean, I'm still holding out hope that the San Jose Sharks, they want to get the brothers together in San Jose. They trade back to 6 so that they can draft Eklund and not use the number 2 pick on him.
Eklund I think is going to take a bit of a tumble. I think
for sure. And if he's in the teens, the Flyers should try and trade up for him. If he gets down to like 15, like you make that move.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Just get a carbon copy of his brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. The blueprint's right there.
Yeah, the thing with McQueen I keep thinking about here, as you guys are talking about, like it has to be a team that can sell it to their fan bases. Like this guy might be a bust. He might just be injured. He might not have a career. I feel like Utah can do that. They're so new to hockey. They're a good team. They already have good young pieces. It's like, all right, we took a big swing here. We can see if this guy pans out, we can become a perennial playoff team. If not, we still got a good young group, still having fun with our 4% beers here in Utah. And like, I don't know if you can do that in like the Flyers at 6 or Boston at 7. I could see it because they're trying to do such a quick turnaround. But like,
I see it a little bit.
like Seattle after they have Shane Wright and what's the other guy's name?
Shane Wright, Matty Beniers, Berkeley Catton.
Yeah, like I don't. I guess they could take a big swing because they already have those centers. Anaheim too. They have McTavish, Carlson, and
they could take the swing.
Vigris. Yeah, so he could really go anywhere between. But I would very much like to see the Flyers trade up to try to get him if he falls to 11, 12.
Pronman had McQueen to the Ducks at 10. I would love if he fell, and I think there's a chance from like the 9 to 13 range that like there's multiple defensemen picked. Just how it's kind of like how it's shaking out. I think there's a certain drop off of forward talent that might make it so defensemen get a bit more valuable, like to the Penguins or the Rangers, maybe, something like that. The Ducks, I don't think will take a defenseman because they struggled to even play Minchikov last year and Zellweger at the same time. They actually do have a really stacked, like just with bodies. Their decor they got a bunch of guys there, of course, led by the fearless leader in Radko Gudas, who has to play 35 minutes a night.
The captain, yes.
I need that jersey.
But I'm with you. Like, I don't think trading from, what do the Flyers have, 21 or 22 at this point? It's 21, yeah?
22.
It's 22.
22. I can't see them cracking higher than 15. Like, I feel like that 14-15 area would be really tough for them to trade up into. But if they can get someone at 16 or 17, then we might be in conversation. Like, it's tough. Oh, go ahead, Gilbert.
I was looking at that, at the draft order, trying to find which teams would want to trade down. Like, I'm always wary. Like the Penguins and the Rangers, I don't think they'll trade with the Flyers there. Like the Red Wings are at 13.
Maybe
they want a roster player like a Owen Tippett type.
So the Red Wings actually have only one pick they have one pick in the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, so on. I was thinking you could, if the Red Wings didn't love how the draft shook out and their most coveted players were already off the board, I could see something working around 21 and what'll be like 32 plus another asset to get back to 13. It wouldn't be cheap at all. It would not be cheap at all. It would probably, like, this is something that, like, if Joel Farabee was still here, if Joel Farabee made to the offseason, it would be the two latest first, and Joel Farabee, and then you send him off. Could be Bobby Brink.
I don't think it would be Farabee.
I have who it's going to be. What state is Detroit in? Pop quiz, Jacob.
Michigan.
Who played at Michigan that does not have a contract right now?
Owen Power. No,
York.
Cam York.
Yeah, Cam York. Yeah.
Cam York for pick 13. That could be a package. I'm not sure how the Flyers fill that hole on the blue line. Maybe they get Nick Hague, but like the Red
draft
Wings,
Jackson Smith and you immediately get the same guy again.
The Red Wings need help on defense. They just do. They have Sider, and that's it. Yeah, I didn't realize they only have one pick for a while there. That's a good option there at 13. Canadians have 16 and 17. Then you have the Blues at 19. They also only have one pick in the first few rounds. So that could be a spot where if someone falls to 19, the Flyers don't think he's going to go to 22. You maybe do 22 and a second to move up to 19.
Yeah, and that's probably more realistic than the scenario that I came up with.
I mean, my hope is that they will trade 22 to move up, and then they will also trade 32 to move up, because the way the talent drop off at like pick 45 is looking is pretty significant. Like, you get to pick 40 or so and the drop off is looking pretty steep. So if they can take the Columbus and Calgary second rounders and use them to just move up into, I don't know, 13 or 14 and then 26 or something, I'd be pretty cool with that. But if their internal ranking of players has a ton of guys in their tier in that like 25 to 35 range, then there's no reason to do it, right? So
yeah,
I don't know. Jacob, since you're here, are there any players in particular that you would love to see them draft at 22 and 31, considering how last night's game went. Or do not drafts as
31. Well. Bill Zonnin's fun.
I love
Bill Zonnin.
Yes.
I like Bill Zonnin late. Malcolm Spence has fallen off.
Yes.
As of recent, I really like Malcolm Spence. Unfortunately, he doesn't have that high of a ceiling. Cullen Potter is really fun. I think everybody wants Cullen Potter. He's just like the speedy, quick young guy who kind of takes everyone smitten pre-draft because he's just got such a good skill set. I actually like. I was putting together an article about some guys that I like. If I can find it, I got like 800 tabs open. But Cameron Reed also comes up for me as a guy that, as a defenseman, later on, if he was able to make it there, I would like Cameron Reed at like 21. And I don't think he'll last all the way down to the end of the first round. But the guy that I've really zeroed in on, that I've really liked for a very long time in this draft later, and he seemingly has kind of tailed off as the excitement around him, I really like Benjamin Kindle. I think he's got he plays the game at a really distinct pace. He slows it up. He can speed up the pace of the game really well. He doesn't look uncomfortable anywhere on the ice, and he's got a really good shot. Along with being a very adept playmaker, he's always good at looking for his teammates. I really like Ben Kindle. It seems like he's kind of falling down to like the 20s, 30s range. I think you don't even need to trade up for him, and I think it would be a great little selection, a pick on upside. Try to get another guy with a big shot. Try to get another guy with some offensive dynamism in him. And yeah, I think those are most of the guys that I think of, like with those 21 to either 31 or 32, whatever that pick ends up being. But yeah, as you said, I think after 45 into the 50s, you get to a lot of unknowns. Maybe not even poor talent-wise, but it's just a lot of guys that aren't necessarily big names, didn't play big name places. You're reaching a more of the SHL, more of the Swedish leagues and the MHL, and the USHL has been a complete disaster. Like the last year, like it's just not very good hockey. And the guys that are coming out of there, you're like, you kind of played against a bunch of bums at times, and you could get found out really easily when you go to college somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think Ben Kindle is the guy I would say could have the best value selection.
Yep.
Milton Gastrin.
Okay. So he's been mocked to the Flyers at 22. Do you think that's way too high for him?
I think it's higher than I would take him at. Yeah.
Right.
I think he's a bit higher. I would be looking like for the Potters to have dropped to that point, right? Or maybe like even Blake Fiddler, maybe from the Oil Kings.
What about goalies? Would you consider Ravensburgen?
So we were talking about this before the show, I think, with Gilbs, and it's like I wouldn't be angry if they took him with 31 or 32. Like if they took him at the end of the first, I'm not going to get pissed off about it, but I don't think that if you, in my personal opinion, if you wanted to take a goalie, I'd take a swing with one of the seconds on Ivan Kovic, because I really liked him at the U18s. I thought he was really good with Carter George. Like I thought they were both like, whoever was in the net, it was a very solid performance. And he's smaller, obviously, right? But Ravensburgen, like, if he ends up going with the 20, if you have to take him with the 21st overall pick or 22nd overall pick, to get him, I think I wouldn't do that.
Too much.
Yeah, especially with Bjarnason and Zavragin, like you're gonna have to find a place for these guys to play at some point, and then you're gonna have another guy coming through who gets kind of lost in the shuffle at times. If he and Urson, I assume, is not going anywhere anytime soon. Like even as a backup option, if he was to kind of fall off a cliff this year. So
let me just hop in here on the goalie talk. I'm loving this prospect talk. I'm looking these guys up on the Elite Prospects draft guide while you guys are talking about it. I'm like, all right, this guy's got to work. But as far as a goalie in the late first round, early second round is concerned, as long as they use pick 6 to get a good guy, they get someone else that it lines up well. I would just love taking a big swing on a goalie. Like, you think about it, what are the best goalies that have hit free agency in the past decade? Like Bob, and people hated that contract until 2 years ago, until last year. Like, top goalies don't hit free agency. They don't even get traded rarely. Like you can go out and you can get a Mitch Marner, a John Tavares, Kaprizov, or whoever else, a forward or defenseman in free agency a lot easier than you can get a goalie. If a goalie is good, a team locks them up and you have your goalie for the future, whether it's a 60 start guy or a guy that you want to have 50-30 with, a tandem a bit. But I'm kind of leaning now more towards go out, try to get as many goalie tickets as possible and hope that one hits. Because, like, even if these goalies don't hit, it's fine. Like, we've seen plenty of first round picks not hit anyway. And some of these guys, maybe not the 6'5" guy, but the guy from Michigan, I think he's at, right?
He's going to Michigan, yeah.
Yeah, and also as Thomas mentioned, trade a second for Wallstead. They hold their value. We saw that with Askarov. Askarov got traded for a former first round pick and another pick after only having a little bit of time in the NHL and AHL. So, like, get as many goalies as possible. Become a goalie factory. Have Danny Briere turn this whole organization around from having no goalies to having all the goalies. Like, that's how you win. All the goalies. Oops, all goalies.
I mean, we have the saying, right? ABDG, always be drafting goalies.
Yeah.
And the Flyers are in a unique position. I am generally like, don't use a first round pick on a goalie. That's stupid. But they got 3 of them. Like, if it works out that they're going to make all 7 of the picks in the first 2 rounds, where are they going to get the ice time for those skaters? Why not use one of those picks on a goalie? Like,
I'd use the second rounder on a goalie. Sure. I don't think I would like to use a first rounder on a goalie just because, I mean, even then, like a 31 or a 32 is not, it's not like even really a first round asset in that way. But I just think, like, as you said, the talent drop off is there. Like, it's real. It's not like there's going to be a lot of late second round steals that teams will be trading up back into the draft to try and get. Unless there's some dramatic fall from like the first round for someone like Ryabkin, then you can maybe take a look. But yeah, I don't think any of these guys are better than Zavragin. And you use the second on Bjarnason. These guys are going to be there. I get having the pipeline going, but I just don't think it's because it's going to be so far down the road too, right? Like, you're not, Ravensburgen isn't going to be playing for 2-3-ish years
longer.
Yeah,
I would bet you longer.
I don't think, like, that's what I'm saying. You've got, if you haven't figured it out by that point, fuck.
Well, I mean, I wrote about this for Broad Street Hockey, right? Like and subscribe. That goalies, unless they're elite level starters, like the Vasilevskis, the Hellebucks, they don't get good NHL time until they're like 26, like 25, 26.
Yeah.
And if we're looking at Zavragin, if he follows the Sorokin or Shesterkin path, Shesterkin didn't come to North America until he was 24. Sorokin didn't arrive until he was 25. Neither goalie played 50 plus NHL games until they were 26 years old. If we project Zavragin in a similar vein, let's say 25, he starts a year earlier. That is the 2030 season. That is the 2030 season. I think Zavragin just turned 20. So we're looking at the year after Sean Couturier's contract has expired that Zavragin might be
That's
getting
basically
a
an eternity.
Workload. It is basically an eternity. So I just think if you draft a goalie this season or this summer, they wouldn't even be playing in the NHL in a meaningful way until 2033, which, that seems like a made up year, but it just, unless they're an elite starter. And as far as who the Flyers would pick, my money would be on Medvedev, just because they are so familiar with him because he's the goalie for the London Knights. But I wouldn't take him in the second. I would probably wait till the third. I think he might be there in the third round.
That's what I'm saying too, as well, right? Like, I wouldn't take Ravensburgen. I've seen Ravensburgen play at Prince George like a little bit here and there. I watched a game my last day. I watched a game where he had a shutout against, I don't remember who. He had a shutout. And I remember I was sitting there. I was like, yeah, he's making all the saves, but it's just like, it's not necessarily any grade A chances at all. And it's not as if the numbers in the W are ever like eye popping for anybody. That's just kind of how the CHL is as a whole. But I don't think he's like 10 times better than a Medvedev or an Ivan Kovic. I think he's just got the frame that really excites people, which I understand that for sure. All of the best goalies usually have that frame nowadays.
Yeah.
But again, I don't think he's like a guy you need to sell out for at 22. I would really advise against that personally.
Yeah.
But
I
mean, again, I can't. You can only get so upset about it if you're able to like get a Van Sage in the second round or something, or somebody who falls really far down. I don't know.
I mean, if you get a Van Sage in the second round, you just take a goalie at 6. I mean, that's but it's kind of similar to the Van Sage. I just had not heard of him before, so that's
he's fine.
He's good. He's cool.
Yeah, but it's kind of similar to McQueen. Like taking a goalie in the first round has to be by a GM that knows he might be around for 5 or 6 years. And like Briere, I think, is one of the few there. Here on Tankathon, they have him going to the Blue Jackets, and they just had Don take over as GM. So that could make sense. The Blue Jackets have had a very long leash for their GMs in the past. Like I don't see him going to like these teams that, maybe Nashville after trading away Askarov, but some of the other teams, like they want.
That's where Pronman had him, was Nashville at 26.
Yeah, that would make sense there. I don't really think I want him at 22, but like if you trade up from 31 or 32 to those mid to late 20s, maybe. But I just feel like why not? Why not take a swing? Why not? You have 7 picks in the first 50 or whatever.
Well, hopefully they're able to trade up or swap them for help now. But I wouldn't it suck if for the draft party they trade the other two first round picks and we're like, well, shit, we came here for whatever. They did it last year. They traded the Florida pick for Edmonton.
They'll at least make one pick at least.
Yeah, we won't have to wait around, an hour or half an hour or whatever it was for their first pick. We'll get the first pick out of the way because, last year's draft party, it definitely waned a bit towards the end.
Yeah.
But
no, this draft, maybe I'm just like too into the weeds at this point, but it seems so mushy after like the top 15, where there are guys that I really like, but then I'm like, oh, would I take him at 22? I don't know. I feel like I could still get them at 32. Like Bill Zonin, for example, I'm like, I'd love to have him on my team, but I wouldn't take him at 22 unless all of the other guys that I wanted are already gone. Like it's just, I don't know. This draft feels
super fluid.
Yeah, and so much is going to depend on how the board falls ahead of the Flyers. Like
a lot of it is preference too.
Yeah, and we know the Flyers' preferences. We know what they look for.
They look for Caleb Desnoyers.
Desnoyers. I actually am a big Desnoyers fan. I might be the biggest.
I'm not upset about how he plays. I just can't get too excited about it as a top 10 prospect. I think because I can't project him to much more than a second line center. Personally,
I mean the thing that's been so frustrating about the mock drafts is that all these writers still see the Flyers as like trying to reconstruct the bullies, and they're like, yep, they're going to take Jack Nesbitt and Milton Gastrin at the 22nd overall pick, and then they're going to
Brady Martin, number 7.
Yeah, and overdraft Simon Wang at 31 or whatever, and it's frustrating because the past 2 drafts they have not followed that philosophy at all, and nobody has apparently noticed.
Are there any guys in like that late first round range that you wouldn't want the Flyers to take at either 22 or with their last pick? Like are there some other avoids you guys have out there, or just like either wouldn't be happy with?
Ryabkin, I wouldn't take him in the first.
Like you take him last pick of the first round. I'm not gonna be upset. It's hard for me. I don't want to put like I'm a big firm stance on who I hate in the draft. Like Pronman has here Brustevitz from the Knights going 28 to the Jets. Like I would take him at 28. Like he's just one of the lower tier London Knights defensemen. I mean, he'll probably be a solid hockey player. He'll probably be a solid defenseman in the NHL. It's just not somebody I'd take in the first round. I think you get better value on him somewhere else.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge Nesbitt guy but if the Flyers get him at their pick, I don't think it's bad either.
No.
So
I'm kind of out on Lyndon Lakovich as well. I don't see it. I think that would be an underwhelming pick at 22. If he's still there in the second round, then sure. But at 22,
no, I think with Lakovich, you're also looking at a guy who, if he's there at 22, he fell a long way from where he was probably supposed to go. Like, he's a mid-teens ish type of guy. Like, if he gets there, it isn't a bad value play, is more what I'm saying, right? Like, a lot of these guys that are mocked around 22 or around 30, the 30 range, I think a lot of them, if they get there, it's a pretty good value, right? A lot of these guys, I could see Blake Fiddler going 25. I could see him going 17. I could see Nesbitt going 15. I could see him going in the second round. Like, realistically, a lot of these guys, same with Boumediene, Horkov. Like, I'm just looking through Prokhorov. Like, these guys all could go in the second round feasibly, like, if they fell on the day. They're not slam dunks. I think Boumediene probably is a first round guy at this point, but they're not slam dunk first round guys. There's a lot of preference from the scouting staff. So there's not anybody I look at and say stray away, like, big red X do not select at the moment.
Would you gamble on Mason West? He's the high schooler who might get football offers for the NCAA.
I don't see why you need to do that.
Yeah, see, so there you go. There's one. There's one where you're like,
Is he mocked in the first though? Like, he's more of a second round guy.
Oh, in the second. I'm talking in the second.
Yeah. Well, in the second round again, it's, as like we've said the whole time, it gets really murky. You get to the back half of that second round, man. Like, Bristevich, to me, for a long time, he was a mid-second round guy, and now I'm seeing him pop up in the first, and I'm wondering if that's just because of the Mem Cup, and which, like, yeah, I mean, I guess it helps that he was on that team, but, you know, you have Sam Dickinson and Allen and Bonk.
Barkey.
All the defense alone is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Jared Woolley's drafted by the Kings. Like, I think everybody on their decor was drafted besides Bristevich. And maybe the guy that played with him on the bottom pair. But, like, that's the thing. A lot of these guys, it's so fluid. I don't really have anybody that I wouldn't look at and say, no, don't take him. I've got more of those feelings with the 6th pick than the lower 2.
I mean, it's going to probably be similar to 2023 when we got to pick 21 and Gabe Perreault was still on the board and they went with Bonk. You know, we won't be able to be mad about it until we see who's available and then they make the pick. And we could be mad that they didn't pick the guy that we wanted them to pick.
That's legitimately a perfect way to, like, if Braden Coots is there at 22 and they take a Ravensburg, and I'm going to be upset. I'll be upset.
Yeah, I was looking at Coots's, like, draft profile on Elite Prospects. He looks great. Looks like a one-man forechecking machine, he said, or something. Like, yeah, get that to play for.
Oh, he's quite good. He's the type of guy that I think would, if you get him, you can take more of a swing with number 6, because Coots, I think, is just such a solid middle 6 kind of guy that he'll play in the NHL.
Do you think he'll stick at center? Maybe.
I've got some faith. It's tough with a lot of the guys. It ends up where they land too, right? If they're trying to force them there. It's a similar question with Cole Reshny, I think, too. If he sticks at center, I think he's got a better chance to stick at center than Coots, but I think they probably both could.
Yeah.
They both have that work ethic, right? So I think as long as you have that, you can be a third line or a second line center and not be the biggest player on the ice.
But a second line wing, if it works out that way, would be pretty good.
I think that's fine too. I don't think you're going to complain about that if you get it at 20 at 15 to 20 overall. You're going to be laughing at the bank if you get that. So I think it's a little bit overblown when you get down to the 20s, like the center wing discussion. Like, if they're good enough, you can find a spot for them. Even if they can't stick at center, you can usually make it work if they have the requisite skills. If they have the requisite skill set, I think it'd be okay. So yeah,
I mean,
not a ton of guys late that I'm too upset about.
I really like Carter Bear too. I know he was injured, but I would, if he's there at 15 in the same way that Eklund would be available at 15 or whatever, I would probably be looking to trade up to get him because natural left winger.
Yeah.
Jacob, do you think Frondell sticks at center, or is that more of a landing spot thing? Because he's the guy that played wing in the SHL, but then played center at the junior level.
Yeah, it's a bit tougher. He's playing up with men in the SHL. If the Blackhawks take him, I think they want him to be the second line center behind Bedard, who's more of a compete guy, more of a 200-foot game guy. And I think I put this actually in my mock draft article that'll come out soon, probably within this week. And I was reading some stuff that suggests that the Blackhawks maybe don't trust Bedard's ability to gain some of those traits on his own. So it might be more feasible for them to take either a Frondell or a Desnoyers who have those like right out of the draft, they have the ability to play both ends of the ice and play a bit more meticulous game off puck than Bedard does. So I think if they take him, I think they'd be totally fine, obviously, if he was to just be like the sniping winger that played alongside Bedard and whoever they put on the other wing. I think, again, that's totally fine. But I think they want him to develop. If the Blackhawks were to take him, they would want him to develop as a center. Now, if you're looking at it, I think it's the same with Utah. And I think it's the same with the Predators. I think
I was going to say they could use him like Draisaitl in Edmonton. He plays 2C behind McDavid, but when the chips are down, they put him on the top line with McDavid,
and it's not crazy to me. Like you look at the Blackhawks, they could use a winger, but they're prioritizing that second line center. And then Utah and Nashville, I think they both need centers. That's why it was initially so surprising to me that Hagens was starting to fall originally. So I guess they don't necessarily view him as a center at the NHL level.
What about for like the Flyers? If the Flyers somehow get Frondell, or I guess in the same question, if it's like Frondell versus Hagen somehow, if some team goes way off board and those two guys are there, are you looking at Hagen still, or do you believe that Frondell, his inflation, his draft stock is worth doing?
So this is what I have as just a pushback to the Hagen sort of his continued falling down draft boards in general. The general consensus. If you put Anton Frondell in the NCAA, or if you put Porter Martone in the NCAA, or if you put Michael Misa in particular as the guy I was thinking of in the NCAA, I think Michael Misa still does better, like is still the pick that is above Hagens this past year, judging off of what I saw from Misa and how he's really grown his game as a centerman. But I think a lot of these guys look a lot worse if they're in the scenario that Hagens was in. I know he was playing with good line mates, but the competition is much higher on a game-to-game basis in the NCAA. And it was his first year, and it's not like he was horrible. He just wasn't as amazing as people expected him to be. So I think I still lean Hagens. Yeah. I think I still do. I think I see him, even if he was to move to wing, as a higher skill ceiling than Frondell, because you've seen it on North American ice in big tournaments. Frondell did not look that good for Sweden at the U18s. He was
tired.
Yeah. He was just kind of around. Obviously, it is the end of the season, like Joe said. Like it's hard to judge necessarily a lot of these guys. He's been shuttled around. He's been shuttled around a lot of teams. He's played a lot of different levels. So
he just unrelegated his team in the Allsvenskan back into the SHL, right? Like
him in Eklund,
yeah.
Rangers.
No, I'm pretty much with you. I think Hagens is my top choice between Desnoyers, Frondell. But if Martone is there, I'm having a real tough conversation. I think I'd still lean Hagens if it's between him and Martone, but because I talked to Gilbs about this on our last pod. Martone is such a good passer and playmaker in a way that the Flyers need. And he also scores all of his goals, not all, but most of his goals from right in front of the net, which is something the Flyers suck at. They need a guy who can do that.
That would help the power play so much to have a guy who cleans
dramatically.
up in front of that net.
And
it makes everything so much easier. That's why it's been such a frustrating thing for me that they haven't even tried to address the net front on the power play really with anyone in particular.
They put Risto up there. Risto up there that one time.
Yeah, let Igor Zamula slam slap shots off Risto's chest for another season.
Yeah. No, it's Hagens for me, but if Martone is still there alongside Hagens, boy, am I having a difficult conversation. How about you, Gilbs?
I think I like Hagens. Hagens was the one going into the year. If he's there for the Flyers, I think you have to take him. And it's sounding a lot like last season where we were like, all right, Flyers are at 12. There was a clear top 12 or 15. The Flyers are going to get one of these guys. And they didn't. And this year, it seems
could
like
be Brady Martin time.
Exactly.
It could very well be Brady Martin time.
It seems like
don't put that out here.
Clear top 6 with Schaefer, Misa, Martone, Daniel Hagens, Frendell. Then you have Brady Martin going up the ranks. You have Jake O'Brien going up the ranks for some reason. Roger McQueen is healthy. Maybe he goes in the top 6. Like,
I like O'Brien. I there's a lot of qualities there that I like, but
my biggest fear is it goes Schaefer, Misa, Frondell. Then it goes either Denoye or Martone, and then one of the other guys goes 5th. That leaves Hagens to the Flyers. They pass on Hagens to take Martin.
Yeah. So
I think that is a genuine possibility.
What's the deal?
If they had to pick between Hagens and Martin, they would pick Martin.
What's the deal with Brady Martin here? How should we be feeling if that does happen?
He's a dog. Number 1 dog. Got dog per 60 is off the chain with this guy. No, he's good. Like he's definitely a guy. I think that if you get him around 12 to 15, you're like psyched about like what he could become as a middle 6 guy.
But it's 6 would be
6 is kind of crazy.
Malpractice almost.
Kind of crazy.
Worse than Luchenko over Buyam. I'll put it that way. I think if you drafted Brady Martin at 6 and
off of consensus, I think Luchenko's actually worse because Martin has jumped up so far. Yes. But maybe skill ceiling wise, yeah. I mean, Martin's got some good traits to like about him, but it is I don't know, man.
This is a little off topic, but on the subject of Luchenko, every year Corey Pronman releases like the industry chatter from the combine, talking to scouts and executives anonymously and getting their read. And at the end, he does like a poll of who's the best skater, who's the best competitor, blah, 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 blah. And I went back and looked at last year's, and Jet Luchenko got votes for best skater and I think best competitor. So it wasn't like he was off the radar of the scouts in like the way that we might have considered him to be off the radar of the Flyers. So it's just interesting to see a year later how things.
Yeah, in hindsight, that makes a lot more sense than we knew in the moment for sure.
He was
in the moment, it
more
looked
liked.
In the moment, it looked absolutely insane. But after the draft, it started to come out that like, yeah, he probably would have went in the teens.
Yeah.
Before getting back to Martin here, I've been thinking about writing up like what does the Flyers lineup look like right now, and I've been struggling. Like, do we think Luchenko still has like a slam dunk 3C on the roster, or might they send him back to the O?
Can they trade him in the O? That would be preferable. I would like to see them trade him to a contending team, please.
That would be cool. Yeah, I think he's still got to play. Personally, to me, I think you got to put him in the lineup. I know it's not necessarily like
in the NHL.
In the NHL.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
In the NHL. I think he's got to put him in the NHL.
You got Coots, you got Cates, you got Paling. Obviously, Cates and Paling can both play wing.
I think you could put Luchenko on the wing if you really wanted.
No, I don't think they would.
No,
I think if he's in the lineup, he's going to be a center.
But Ryan Paling's not like a center that you need to have be a center either. Like,
yeah, he can be like
you can do whatever he wants.
I don't think they're going to put Cates lower than 3C. They're not going to put him on the 4th line after having his contract there. But if they go out and get like a Rossi, or if they go out and get a Granlund or Duchesne or one of these guys in free agency, you have that guy. You have Coots, Cates, Paling. Put Paling on the wing, whatever. But like Luchenko isn't nearly as much penciled in. So I guess it makes. I mean, we'll see what they do at the draft and what they do in free agency, because they're not going to do much until then, because they want to have all the flexibility and leverage at the draft.
It's really funny you bring up Michael Granlund, because it's out in the news today that Stars would trade Jason Robertson to re-sign Michael Granlund, which is just
fucking crazy.
It's stupid as hell, but it's Jim Nill. I know he's not going to do that. He's not that stupid, but
they'll trade Michael Granlund for like the first overall pick. Or no, they'll trade Robertson for the first overall pick. It's like, oh yeah, okay, I guess if you can do that, I mean that's fine.
Sure, why not?
That makes sense. So, yeah.
I want Briere to call Dallas and be like, all right, ask about Robertson, be like, oh, Wyatt Johnson, minus 15, all-time worst in the playoffs. How's he looking? Jake Ottinger, how's he feeling? I guess DeBoer's gone, so
DeBoer's gone.
Ottinger won. I think he won that power struggle very easily. Yeah. I don't know why DeBoer ever thought he was going to win that battle.
Him and York would get along so well.
Yeah, they're both American, right? They both probably came up similar times in the U.S. NTDP.
Ooh. Well, no, because Andre was 2017 and York was 2019. So Andre might be a little bit too old for them to have played together.
Yeah. But same coaches, same system there. We'll discuss that more as the offseason moves along. Getting back to Brady Martin, looking at his elite prospects draft guide profile, it just says top 6 NHL outcome hinges on skating development, and skating has been the one thing where the Flyers feel pretty confident like that they can fix it. Like we saw that with Forster, someone else too, I forget who, but like Forster's turned into a force on the line there. So Martin, I wouldn't hate getting him, but just looking at these other guys that will likely be available at 6.
He might not be a center. He might not be an NHL center, and then you're just getting overdrafting a wing. And if it's between Martin and Martone, and they pick Martin over Martone, I'm going to be like, what the fuck are you thinking? Like that's
kind of
yeah.
Kind of a succinct way to put it. I like Martin's game. Like I like the just heaviness he plays
for sure.
But again, is that going to translate when the guys who are on defense aren't playing for the Flint Firebirds? Like, I don't know. Maybe he just looks good running roughshod over a bunch of random defensemen, right? I like how he looks. I just don't know what much more he can develop his game than what it is right now. I don't think he's necessarily slow. And if you think you can, get his skating tool to a point where it's at least league average or a bit above, it's not bad. But again, there's a lot of work to do, and a lot of things have to go right to make him worth a 6 overall pick, even in a draft like this where the back half of the top 10 isn't a bunch of slam dunks. But
I mean, it was interesting in Pronman's not mock, his rankings today, though top 125. He says, let me pull it up here. As the season went along, the 2025 draft class began to look better. It's still a slightly below average group without true star power at the top other than Erie's Matthew Schaefer, but this top 10 group projects to produce numerous high-quality NHL forwards. So,
and again, I just want to butt in quickly. I don't understand. They did this with Celebrini last year, and no one would admit it. I do not understand how you don't think Michael Misa has at least some chance of being an elite forward in the NHL. I don't understand it. There's just a disconnect with me and everyone. Like, I don't know why you need to put the caveat in like, oh, well, it's only Matthew Schaefer. Well, I think Misa can be just as, if he ends up being an 85-point second line center on a really good team, that's pretty good. No, like that's good. That's
85 points. That's a 1C for this Flyers team. Are you?
No, I was just saying that because he's probably gonna have to play behind Macklin for the entire career if everything goes well over there, right? It can be Thornton Pavelski part 2.
Also, I feel like every year we hear, "Oh, this is a below-average draft class." Like, unless there's a McKenna or McDavid, like every year it's like, "Oh, next year's class is better." I just feel like the bar is too high. There's always going to be great players coming out of every class. It might just not look that way.
Listen, we got spoiled in 2023 and 2024. Okay, 2023, you had Bedard at the top, Michkov, and then you also had Fantilli, Carlson, and Will Smith, who were all really exciting center prospects. Like the top 10 of 2023 was pretty exciting. Last year, you had 8 defensemen who were all pretty damn good or pretty high projection, and Celebrini to cap it off at the top, and another Russian phenom in Demidov. Like, this year, it just doesn't it's kind of the come down from 2 years of exciting prospects at the top of the draft, doesn't mean it's bad, but
yeah, it's not even Schaefer at the top is not slam dunk franchise player.
It's like Ekblad,
He's very good. Yeah. I think that's a good, if he makes as much of a difference to a team as Aaron Ekblad does over the past 15 years of his career.
Solid number
I
one.
don't think you're very upset about that at all. Matthew Schaefer could also use steroids. He can consider that.
Just like Aaron Ekblad. Yeah,
he could consider that as an option. I didn't think of that before, but he can definitely think about maybe getting some trend.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No,
EPO.
We have to remember then in 2014. No, when was Ekblad drafted?
2014. Yeah, it's 2014 draft.
Who went number 3?
Showing that picture of all the top 4 draft picks.
Right. Who went number 3 that year?
Was that Bennett? Was that Reinhardt?
Nope. Last one.
Reinhardt was after.
It was Draisaitl.
It was Dry.
Who is clearly the number 1 draft pick of that class in retrospect, right? But that could be good for who's third? Oh no, it's Chicago. Oh crap.
We didn't know Germany made hockey players at that point, though.
No. Yeah. Still got it wrong with Mo Seider too. Oh yeah,
hey, let's see. AJ Peterka.
Mm-hmm.
Tim Stützle. Yeah, I mean they got a good starting 5 at the very least.
Is Stützle German? I thought he was Swiss.
Oh, I think Stützle's German.
He's German.
Yeah, I haven't been reading too much recently into the mock draft stuff. I'm planning on doing that this week for a mock draft roundup.
Kind of all over the place, anyways.
Yeah, but is the talk of Hagens going to his hometown team, is that kind of just over now?
Yeah.
Or
what, the Islanders?
Yeah,
that'd be malpractice.
No. Yeah, no, they'd be. Right.
That's kind of what I assumed.
For a second there, it was there. It was there.
Yeah, it was like, all right, Hagens, and I can't imagine the Islanders trade down or anything. So
nah,
fuck no.
The Islanders need any good player.
Any good player. My most hated team. My face when I saw that they won the first overall pick, I was just. It's the worst thing.
I don't have any hatred towards the Islanders because I just don't think about them ever. Like it's just like, why would you? Oh, Matthew Barzal just playing for the Islanders. It's just like, oh,
hey, where was Barzal drafted? He was like the 15th, 16th pick.
So he was after that run of 3 Bruins picks where they took Jake DeBrusk, and Zachary Seneshin, who was a 4th line center for the Sioux.
Wow.
So that's actually worse than Brady Martin because at least Brady Martin was the 2nd line center for the Sioux.
Yeah. Oh man. Oh god, what a world that would have been where if Boston.
Imagine Boston could have had DeBrusk, Barzal. Oh, if they would have redrafted, it's Konechny, Connor, and Matthew Barzal. Imagine what world we'd be living in. I would have been.
We would not have Brad Marchand giving the Edmonton Oilers hell.
It's like the multiverse. It's like the multiverse. I think it's worse. I think we ended up in the good reality.
Yeah, who do the Flyers get if Konechny's not there? I mean, I don't know who was drafted. I think Sprong was in that draft. I was looking at that earlier, actually.
Love David Sprong.
Nah. Who was after
1 for 1? Sprong for Konechny.
Jack Roslovic, Anthony Beauvillier.
Oh man, I thought Beauvillier was going to be good.
Yeah,
he still could be.
Sebastian Aho, 2nd round there. That was a steal.
Which Sebastian Aho?
The good one.
The one that was drafted.
Yeah. Speaking of trading down, do you guys think there's any chance like one of these top 5 picks trade? Like we hear about it every year. Like
Sharks.
This team's thinking about it, but they have to think about it. They have to have all the options on the table, but I can't see it happen.
Sharks.
No.
The Sharks.
Sharks for Eklund.
Yeah, absolutely. No, they won't do it.
Yeah, it just seems too. The top 5 is so just like you're getting a good player. Just you're going to get a guy who's pretty good. I don't think you're going to really get that many assets for trading out though either, right? Because it's not like they're game changers. I don't think. What is somebody going to give up to be able to draft Porter Martone? Like, is it going to be a huge haul? I think it would be a pretty decent amount of future picks and stuff. I don't think you're getting like a roster player who's of a very high quality though. So,
I mean, until the San Jose Sharks make the 2nd overall pick, I'm gonna be like, it's happening. And when it happens at the draft party, you should all come. I'm gonna lose my mind.
Yeah. I mean, the Flyers are the team that could trade up because they have the 6th pick, they have 22, they have 31, 32, they have 3 early second round picks. So, like, if there's a team that's 4 early second round picks, yeah. So if there's a team looking to trade down and the Flyers have their eyes on one of those top guys, maybe they do it. Maybe Danny gets a little bit spicy.
I'd love to see it, but I just don't see who wants to leave that spot.
Yeah,
to vacate that spot.
It'd be
the
stupid.
Flyers definitely have the assets to do it, though.
Yeah, maybe like Joe was saying with Utah because they want a guy down the board more. But
I wouldn't trade up to 4. I don't think there's any value in that.
It depends who falls. It depends. We didn't see Beckett Seneca going 3rd overall last year, so
that's what I'm saying. Like, if there's no way Misa reaches 6, I don't think he reaches 3. Like, if he falls to the Blackhawks, they would take him in a heartbeat. I can't see a world where he falls to the Flyers at 6. You would be trading up to 2 to trade into a different tier, to trade into a higher tier of player. If you're trading from 6 to 4, you're still probably in the same tier and getting one of the players that you already would have gotten at 6, but now you've given up assets to do the same thing. I guess it depends who falls, but I bet you if the Flyers are that high on Desnoyers and they know that Utah would get him, then I could see it, but I don't think they would give up a bunch of assets just to draft Caleb Desnoyers if they can still get Higgins at 6 or Martone at 6. You'd have to trade up to a higher tier to make it make sense. What does Danny Briere always say? It has to make sense. I need that shirt. I need that on a shirt.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the teams like the Sharks and the Blackhawks. They want the top talent. They don't need many more prospects in their cupboard. Like Utah, maybe. And it also depends on what the Flyers' internal rankings are. If they have Desnoyers a lot above Martone, or vice versa, or whatever. If they have like Schaefer, Misa, and someone else in that top tier, and that someone else is there at 4, and they think that he might go at 4 or 5, they could trade up, but it just doesn't happen. Teams don't trade for first top 10 picks.
Nope, not unless you're the Ottawa Senators getting Alex DeBrincat.
Yes. Right here at the hour 17 minutes here. Anything else you guys want to discuss before we close this thing out?
Go Panthers.
I'm going to give you guys, I don't know much, but one thing I do know is that the Buffalo Sabres are going to draft Radim Murtka and do the Rasmus Ristolainen thing again. So watch out for Radim Murtka in like 2033. He won't be good there, though.
All right.
But he will be on the Flyers by then. We will trade more assets for another really right-handed defenseman from the Sabres who is not that good.
Which of the... I hate to extend this longer, but which of the between the top 3 defensemen, Kashawn Aitchison, Jackson Smith, and Murtka, which one do you think is most likely to fall? And would you trade up into the teams to draft any of those 3?
I like Jackson Smith overall game the most. He reminds me basically exactly of Travis Sanheim. I was talking to Thomas about that earlier from Broad Street Hockey.
That's what EP. That's
lingering.
What EP says.
Yeah. It's you just watch him. He looks like the exact same guy. It's really not that hard to make that comp. He just skates like the way he flips his hips when he turns from skating backwards to forward. It's so weird. So I like his toolkit the most. Murtka's a big wild card, but he's a right-handed shot defenseman who's tall. So I'll punch you a ticket for at least $12 million in career earnings. Kashawn Aitchison, I really love him. When he was going in like the 20s, I was like, full bore, the Flyers need to draft him, but he's jumped up the boards because he's a really tough and really well-rounded defenseman. He can do a lot of things. He has a big compete level, and he throws some of the hardest hits I've ever seen at the level. Like, especially nowadays, you don't see those anymore, and they're not even dirty. He's just lining guys up and like trying to obliterate them off the earth. It's kind of crazy. So I think he necessarily doesn't have the top pair ability of a Smith, but he's got that extra edge to him. So like if he fell to like 15, 16, I would love if the Flyers went up and got him. But I think at this point he's been exposed to enough like teams. And again, as we go through the playoffs, physical defenseman, he's going to end up heading up on the board.
He'll go early.
Yeah. I think he'll go just after the 10s, and all those defensemen I think will go in that 7 to maybe 16 range. So I don't think the Flyers will have much of a chance at any of them unless they took a big reach at 6 or traded back in. So until that happens, can't really dream on any of them right now because Aitchison has firmly cemented himself outside of that range for 22.
If Aitchison was still there at 21 or 20 or 22, I would be running to the
all in.
Pick him
all
up.
in.
All in. I would
perfect, especially if you get a centerman in the first pick. Set you up perfect. I love it.
Big.
Him and Bonk on the second pair for the next 20 years would be unbelievable, I think.
Sheesh. Anyway.
All right, yeah, that's a great hour discussion there of the draft. I learned a lot. Hopefully, listeners learned a lot as well. We're planning on having more draft talk as we get closer to the draft. 2.5 weeks away now.
So close.
So close. Make sure you guys subscribe to the Broad Street Hockey YouTube feed, Broad Street Hockey Podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Come out to the draft party at Chickies and Pete's on that Friday and read, like, and subscribe. BroadStreetHockey.com. Plenty of good stuff up there as well. All right, Joe and Jacob, where can these guys find you on the socials?
Jacob, take it away.
At Russell_28_ on X/Twitter. I am there sometimes. And on BroadStreetHockey.com, I will have a lot more draft content coming out soon. Video, written, article forms, everything. We're going to be trying to do a mock draft with some of the people who did the prospect writing soon, hopefully, maybe. I'm going to do my own mock draft that I think is the ideal scenario that could lead to the Flyers maybe trading back up.
Ooh.
But I haven't fleshed all that out yet. But yeah, a lot of stuff's in the works, a lot of stuff coming. And you can follow me over there as well.
Cool. All right. You can find me on Blue Sky at jfdemarini.bsky.social. I have been live skeeting, tweeting, posting through the finals. Panthers rule. They're fun. Everybody bow down to Conn Smythe winner Brad Marchand. Gilbert, where can they find you?
You can find me on Blue Sky at ryangilbert.bsky.social, where I will be predicting Stuart Skinner getting pulled again. And you can also follow me on Twitter at rgilbertsop.
Gilbs, it's like a 50-50 chance, man. It's like
I know.
50-50 chance.
Just a coin flip.
Like roulette.
Yeah, black or red. Like occasionally you get a 0, occasionally puts up a shutout, but no, it's
yeah.
All right, Jacob, thanks again for joining us, and to everyone else. Until next time, thanks for listening.
Go Flyers.